Okay, how's everybody doing this evening? My name is Kent, and boy, that sun is bright tonight. It's always interesting to me because when I'm out here looking at it live, it's so bright. But when I look at the video, after I shoot the video, take it home, and upload the video, it doesn't seem nearly as bright. But it's pretty bright tonight. So, and a few surfers down there trying to catch a wave. Waves are they're all right. I wouldn't say they're great waves tonight, but certainly surfable. So what I want to talk about tonight is I want to talk about something that I'd like to call the invisible man, or the invisible group of men. And I'm going to stick to men mainly because if you could say the same thing probably about women. This group could be referred to in women because women probably have the same things going on. But women tend to drop in and out of workforce and tend to be, when they're raising families and having children, not so much where you can really define what it is, what they're doing, as far as what their job, what their work, what their professions are, because they're bouncing around between having children and working at a job and having a profession and so on and so forth. But anyway, the reason I refer to this group as the invisible group of men, because there's a group of men out there right now, and it's it's really hard to pinpoint exactly the number by the Bureau of Statistics, because labor statistics, because they really don't give you. There's so many different ways of defining it, but from what my basic understanding is the ages are roughly between about 25 and 54. Between that age, between 25 and 54, we have a group of men out there that are becoming virtually invisible. And the reason they're becoming invisible is because they've dropped out of all the things that we normally think men should be doing in that age group, which is having a profession, having a job, buying a home, raising a family, getting married. All these different things they're not doing. They're basically not participating normally. They're not paying taxes. They're out there, but they're just not part of any of these different demographics or different ways of measuring what people are doing. They just don't exist. They're non-existent. And this group of men is growing enormously. So much so I can't even put a figure on it. I'm trying to sit down and pinpoint exactly how many men we're talking about, but we're talking about a lot of men. We're talking about a lot of men that have basically dropped out of the system. They can't find a job. They're no longer paying taxes. They're no longer looking for a job. And they're no longer doing the things that we normally think that people should be doing in that age group. And so many people would say, so what? They're kind of losers. They're just people that just they haven't been able to fit in. So, and I'm talking about a lot of people. So we're not talking about a small amount of people. They don't fit in. So since they don't fit in, who cares? Well, the problem with that logic is this is a group of people that our country depends on for. We all depend on each other basically, and when you have that many people, tens of millions of men that have dropped out of the workforce and no longer participate, no longer do anything, including military service, you have weakened your country, because you have, the people that should be supporting the Social Security system, people that should be supporting the growth of the infrastructure, people that should be building and developing and progressing are doing nothing. They're not growing. They're not doing anything to contribute to the economy. And if they are doing anything to contribute to the economy, they're doing it in a stealth fashion. They're doing it otherwise where you can't measure who they are or what they're doing. They're doing it on the books, off the books. It's almost like you got a whole group of people out there. They're there, they're participating, they're making money, but they're not doing it in a way that anybody can understand, or any way that it helps the way we set our structure up, the way our economy has been set up, so that they're, like I say, paying taxes, contributing to the system, and doing this, so on and so forth. And I know this firsthand because I would say quite a while, about 20 years ago, I was working with a legal services company, and we were providing legal services for people, and majority. And I was doing a lot of the intake calls. A lot of the people that had legal issues were calling me first, And after I talked to them, then we decide how to handle whatever it is the problem was. But I would say, and this is 20 years ago, majority of the first calls I was getting were from men that had, what had happened is they'd gotten a girl pregnant, the girl had gone to the hospital, delivered the baby, and of course they say, well, who's the father? And the girl says, Tom Jones. Well, they look up Tom Jones, and they notify Tom Jones, you have a child, and you're liable for expenses, you're liable for child support, and so on and so forth. Belly up and pay up. And obviously if the guy doesn't pay up, then what happens? They start getting garnished wages, and the state comes after them and pretty much attaches anything they can get their hands on. And so what they do is they end up calling somebody up. They don't have any money. They don't have money for an attorney. So they call up somebody that was giving away free legal services like we were. And they say, what can I do? How can I get out of this problem? And, what can you do? What can you tell them? There's not much you can do. But that's the way. And so what happens in those kinds of situations is the guy just kind of drops out. He goes, okay, everything I do gets taken away from me because I owe the state tens of thousands of dollars for a child of which I'm not participating with. I'm not involved in the child's life. I'm not involved with the mother. I have no connection whatsoever. It was just a bad relationship. It didn't work out. And I can't afford this, so I just basically drop out of the system. And that's what happened. They just drop out of the system, and so they start working off on the side. They start making money. They just get paid in cash. They don't file taxes anymore, and they try to keep everything in other people's names, and they do everything they can to stay out of the system. And the way we have structured our world today, that's kind of what a lot of people have done. They've just gotten to a point where they got a problem, and their problems are to the point where if they make any money, they don't get to keep it. And the other problem is there aren't many opportunities out there to make a substantial enough living to pay all the taxes, to do everything you need to do, and have everything above board and have it work out so that you can pay everything and afford to do it. They can't do it. So they just basically drop out of the system. And we're talking about a lot of people in the age group, like I just spoke of, between the ages of 25 to 54. We have enormous amounts of people in those age groups that have just dropped out. Like I said, I refer to him as the invisible man. And it's going to affect everybody. It's going to affect all of us, because as our economy starts to deteriorate, as the burdens get to be greater for everyday ordinary people that can't afford anything, and in inflation, you're going to have an entire group of people that don't have any way of, that the country has no way of being able to have them help to support the infrastructure of which our economy is built on. So this is called something that this is a ticking time bomb. It's coming on. We have a lot of ticking time bombs going on in our country right now. And this is, I think, one of the biggest ones, is that with the job market being where it is, and I've been talking about jobs quite a bit, the last few videos I've made have been about jobs, and how the jobs really don't exist, and how we're being lied to by the government about how we have a 4% unemployment rate, which is, they just pull that out of thin air. I don't even know where it is. That's laughable. Everybody makes a joke out of that one. And then on top of that, they lie about how many people are employed because there isn't that many good jobs. And now we continue to lie about, our statistics as far as our job numbers. And they tell us that the economy is doing well. Stock market is up. Everything is going really well. And since everything is going really well, we should feel really good about it. But those are all artificial numbers that don't have any basis in anything outside of some bureaucrats that are able to, make the numbers do whatever they want them to do. And that's where we're at. The other thing I want to talk about quickly tonight is Bitcoin, because I did do a little more research on Bitcoin. Mainly what people are telling me about Bitcoin that I'm talking to is that their feelings about Bitcoin is that Bitcoin, everybody's complaining about the Federal Reserve not dropping interest rates. Interest rates are fairly high, or the overnight Fed funds rate is very, very high right now. And it's higher than it's been in a number of years. And before we get the Fed funds to drop the rates, the Bitcoin price is going to be, lower than it should be. And that's kind of what I said last night, and that's kind of what it is. So I think it's not so much that the Fed fund rate or the what the Federal Reserve interest rate is right now, whatever it is. I'm not real sure what it is. I think it's around 7%, but not so much of that interest rate that's the problem. It's the uncertainty of the economy, and it's also the uncertainty of the future election. What's happening right now? Nobody's really sure what's going to happen. In the meantime, this is a buying opportunity if you want to get into Bitcoin. Because if everybody's uncertain about what's going to happen, that doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with Bitcoin. It just means that everybody's just sitting on the sidelines waiting for some sort of a one way or other direction. It's funny because a guy like Trump, he's just he's playing both sides of the coin. If he feels the voters are favorable for Bitcoin, he's going to be all for Bitcoin. If he feels the voters are negative on Bitcoin, he's going to be negative Bitcoin. He in the past he's kind of been negative on Bitcoin, but right now he's very pro Bitcoin. I don't even know if Biden even knows what Bitcoin is, so I don't even think he has a understanding of something like Bitcoin. But anyway, I think a lot of that is hurting Bitcoin right now, which means that Bitcoin's price is trading poorly simply because of a lot of people's inability to decide what to do or make a decision one way or the other. But I would hope that Bitcoin would recover here real quick, at least to where it was before, in the $70,000 to $80,000 range. And I see where some of the people are starting to say that they're calling for $100,000 Bitcoin before the end of the year, which I think would be a reasonable place for Bitcoin to be, around 100,000. So I'm going to flip the camera around. Got the sun just about ready to drop down into the clouds, and hopefully we'll have another video for you tomorrow. Talk to you later. Okey-doke, there we are. Have a good evening.